Daniel? My voice shook, though the cold floor under me was already stealing my strength. He didn't move, didn't even blink. Why? I whispered. He looked down at me, his jaw tight, eyes void of the love I once swore was real. It's better this way. From the doorway, Sophie's heels clicked as she stepped inside. She's still breathing, she said with a smirk. Should I call someone? Or? Daniel shot her a glance. Leave it. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't obey. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, and the last thing I saw was Sophie's satisfied grin. I gasped, sitting upright. In bed, my heart pounded. My hands were clean, no blood, no pain. The room was familiar to familiar. I scrambled off the bed, nearly tripping over the rug. My old apartment. The one I left 3 years before I died. No, this isn't possible. I grabbed my phone, my breath uneven. The date flashed on the screen. The same month, the same year, 3 years before everything went wrong. A knock rattled the door. Bella, you're going to be late. Daniel's voice. My stomach twisted. I opened the door just enough to see him, young, charming, still wearing that smile I once thought was my home. Morning, babe. Ready? My fingers curled around the doorframe. You're up early. He chuckled. Big meeting. You know that. I forced a smile, hiding the bile rising in my throat. Right. Give me 10 minutes. He leaned in, kissed my cheek, and walked away. His scent was the same. My skin burned where his lips touched. When the door shut, I leaned against it, my mind racing. He doesn't know yet. Sophie doesn't know yet. Claire still calls me her sister. I still have my job, my savings, my second chance. To the office. Claire waved at me. Bella, I grabbed you coffee. I stared at her for a beat too long. Thanks, I said finally, taking the cup. You, okay? You look pale. I didn't sleep well, I lied. We sat at our desks. Her laughter rang in my ears, light, easy, hiding the betrayal she'd commit in a year. Big plans this weekend? She asked. Not really. Might just sort some things out. She tilted her head. Sort things out? You sound mysterious. I smiled faintly. Maybe I am. At lunch, Daniel called. Hey babe, dinner tonight? My treat. I gripped the phone tighter. Sure. 7? Perfect. Love you. The words stabbed, but I kept my voice steady. Love you too. When I hung up, Lucas, quiet, observant Lucas from accounting, looked over. Everything all right? I nodded. Just life. He gave me a slow nod, like he saw more than I wanted him to. That night, Daniel sat across from me in the restaurant. He talked about work, about opportunities, about money. I listened, memorizing every detail, every casual mention of contacts, projects, and accounts. When he reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. You've been quiet, he said. Just tired. You need a break. Maybe we can go away next month. Maybe, I murmured, thinking how in less than a year, he'd use a vacation to hide his affair. Back home, I stared at the ceiling long after he fell asleep. My mind replayed the last minutes of my death, the relief in his eyes, the smirk on Sophie's lips. This time, I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't beg. I whispered into the dark, I'll take back every penny you stole, and when I'm done, you'll wish I'd stayed dead. And for the first time since I opened my eyes that morning, I smiled. Bella, you've been staring at that toast for 10 minutes. Daniel's voice was warm, playful, the same tone he used when he wanted me to feel safe. I'm just thinking, I said, pushing the plate away. About what? He leaned on the counter, watching me. Money. We should start tracking our expenses better. He laughed. You? Worrying about money? We're fine. I forced a smile. Still, it wouldn't hurt to be organized. Leave that to me, he said, kissing my forehead. I handle the numbers. Not anymore. I thought to my desk later. Claire bounced into my office with her usual energy. Hey, sister, coffee break? I shut my laptop. Sure, let's go. We walked to the cafe downstairs. She talked about her weekend plans, the guy she was dating, the dress she'd just bought. What about you? She asked. I've been thinking about writing things down, tracking life, you know? Just details. She tilted her head. Like a diary? More like a notebook, I said. Numbers, events, little things people forget. Claire grinned. That's so you. Always organized. I didn't tell her the notebook was for every transaction Daniel made, every strange meeting, every unexplained absence. Back upstairs, Lucas Grant stood by the copier. He nodded when I passed. Morning, I said. Morning, he replied, his voice low, almost cautious. You've been quiet lately. He gave a half shrug. I'm always quiet. I smiled faintly. I guess you are. I started to walk away, but he spoke again. You seem different. I stopped. Different how? More focused. Less trusting. My chest tightened. That's not a bad thing. He looked me over for a moment, then nodded. No, it's not. That evening, Daniel came home with takeout. Thought you'd like a break from cooking, he said, setting the bags on the table. Thanks, I replied, pulling out the containers. How was your day? Busy. Meetings all day. You know how it is. I met his gaze. Meetings with clients? Mostly. He avoided my eyes. Some internal stuff. I jotted that down later in my notebook. Meetings. Vague answers. The next morning, Claire popped her head into my office again. Lunch? She asked. Can't today. I'm working on something. She pouted. Boring. What's so important? Just numbers. Her eyes flickered, curious. Numbers for work? Numbers for me, I said evenly. She laughed it off, but I saw the quick shift in her expression before she left. By midweek, Lucas stopped by my desk. You ever need someone to check numbers? I'm good at spotting patterns. I glanced at him. Patterns? Yeah, things that don't add up. I studied his face. Why would I need that? He hesitated, then said, You just seem like someone who's planning something. A small smile touched my lips. If I was, would you help? That depends, he said, on what you're planning. That night, Daniel suggested a weekend trip. Just the two of us, he said. Where? Anywhere you want. I tilted my head. And you're sure work won't mind? They'll survive. He grinned, the same grin he used to hide his lies. I reached across the table, touching his hand. Let's wait a bit. I want to get things in order first. He looked mildly disappointed but didn't push. In the quiet of my room, I opened the black leather notebook. I wrote, Day 5 Daniel offered weekend trip. Avoided details about meetings. Claire curious about notebook. Lucas suspicious but observant. I ran my fingers over the page. This wasn't just a second chance, it was a weapon. Every detail was ammunition. I closed the book, whispering to myself, You won't see me coming. Why are you smiling at your laptop like that? Daniel asked, leaning over the back of my chair. Just sorting through some accounts, I said casually, clicking to another screen. Accounts? My personal ones. I realized I've been careless. He chuckled. Babe, you don't need to worry about that. We've got everything handled. I tilted my head. Maybe, but I like knowing where my money is. Our money, he corrected, placing his hands on my shoulders. Of course, I said sweetly, while transferring another sum into a new account under a name he didn't know existed. 2 nights later, he slid a folder across the table during dinner. I've been thinking you should help me with this project. Just a small investment to start. I flipped the folder open, scanning the numbers. Looks risky. Not for us, he said. With your touch, it'll be a win. I smiled, tucking the folder back. Let me think about it. Don't think too long, he teased. Opportunities like this don't wait. I nodded, hiding my satisfaction. He still thought I was the trusting wife. A tea lunch the next day, Claire leaned in over her salad. Daniel mentioned you're helping him with something? I kept my tone light. He talks too much. That's not a no, she said with a grin. I sipped my water. I'm just looking at numbers. You know me. Numbers that make you rich? I laughed. Numbers that keep me secure. Her eyes narrowed slightly before she changed the subject. By Thursday, Sophie's name started popping up in Daniel's casual stories. She's new at the office, he said over breakfast. Sharp too. Could be useful. I kept my voice even. Useful how? Just good with clients. Don't overthink it. I'm not. I pushed my plate away. I'm glad you have help. Inside, my pulse quickened. She was already in position. That evening, I dressed carefully before heading to a networking event downtown. The room smelled of expensive wine and ambition. That's where I found Ethan Cole, tall, confident, with the kind of smile that made people hand him money without realizing it. Isabella Reed. I introduced myself. I know the name, he said. You work in finance? In a way. I like making sure investments bloom. He smirked. You speak like someone who knows the end of the story before it begins. Maybe I do. We talked for 20 minutes before he finally asked, And what is it you're looking for? Opportunities, I said. Ones that pay off in ways people don't expect. That's vague. I'm careful with details, he studied. Me. Careful people make good partners. When I came home, Daniel was in the living room. How was the event? Crowded, I said, slipping off my heels. Meet anyone useful? A few people. I kissed his cheek. I'll tell you more when I'm sure they matter. Friday morning. Claire stopped by my office. Heard you were at some big shot event last night. Word travels fast. Daniel mentioned it. Said you might have met investors. Did I? I asked with a smile. She laughed. You're being cagey. Maybe I just like keeping my cards close. Later, I texted Ethan. Good to meet you. Let's talk again soon. His reply came within minutes. Dinner next week? My treat. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, yes, that night. Daniel wrapped his arms around me. You've been busy this week. I like staying busy. Just don't get too busy for me, he said, kissing my neck. I smiled into the darkness. I wouldn't dream of it, but I already was. Daniel's voice on the phone was casual. I'll be home late. Client dinner. What time? I asked. Don't wait up. All right, I said, pretending to believe him. The second the call ended, I grabbed my coat and keys. 2 blocks from his office, I saw him leave not toward the restaurant district, but in the opposite direction. My pulse quickened. I followed at a distance, blending into the crowd. He stopped at a hotel. Sophie was already waiting in the lobby, wearing a red dress that screamed not business. They laughed, his hand on her lower back as they walked toward the elevators. I slipped my phone from my bag, snapping photo after photo. Then I recorded their voices as they spoke in low tones near the elevator. Sophie's laugh was clear. She doesn't suspect a thing. Daniel's reply was sharper. She won't. She trusts me. My hands shook not from heartbreak, but from the electric jolt of certainty. Evidence. The next day, Lucas caught me staring at my phone during lunch. Something on your mind? He asked. I slid the phone into my bag. Just work. You've been different lately. In a good way? He hesitated. In a dangerous way. Whatever you're doing, be careful. I met his gaze. Why? Do you care? He smirked faintly. Because you're interesting to watch. And I'd rather not see you crash. That evening, Claire called. Want to grab drinks? I have gossip. What kind? Work kind. Her tone was teasing. Meet me at that wine bar on 5th. When I arrived, she was already halfway through a glass. You won't believe who I ran into, she said. Sophie Lane, from Daniel's office. I kept my expression neutral. Really? She's nice. We had coffee last week. Last week? I asked. Yeah. She wanted to know about you, your work, your hobbies. Claire grinned. I told her you're an angel. My stomach twisted. Why would she care? Claire shrugged. She's curious about her co-workers' wives, I guess. Or maybe she's curious for other reasons. She laughed. You're paranoid. The next morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror as Daniel shaved. You were late the other night, I said casually. I told you client dinner. Where? He paused, then smiled. Stevenson's. That's funny. Claire said she saw Sophie near the same area. His eyes flickered, just for a second. Coincidence? I leaned against the doorframe. Sure. Later that day, Lucas stopped by my desk. You've made a decision about whatever's been bothering you, haven't you? I smiled faintly. Yes. Care to share? Not yet. That night, I spread the photos across my desk. Daniel's hand on Sophie's waist. Sophie's lips brushing his ear. The audio clip where he promised she'd have it all. My phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Lunch with Sophie tomorrow, join us? I stared at the screen, a slow smile curling my lips. This was perfect. When Daniel came home, he kissed my cheek. You're in a good mood. Just a productive day. Anything exciting? Plenty, I said, folding my notebook shut. As I lay in bed, the plan formed with crystal clarity. I wouldn't confront them, not yet. I'd let Sophie believe she was winning. I'd let Claire think she was clever. And then, I'd make them tear each other apart until there was nothing left. I turned off the light, my mind already rehearsing the next move. Daniel looked up from his laptop as I placed a folder on the table. What's this? He asked. A proposal, I said, sitting across from him. Let me handle one of your smaller investments. Just as a trial. He smirked. You're not exactly in my line of work. I know, which is why it's low risk. You can always pull the plug if I fail. He leaned back. Why now? I've been reading, learning. I want to contribute. He studied me, then shrugged. Fine. Which one? That boutique tech startup you've been ignoring. That one's pocket change. Exactly, I said with a smile. 2 weeks later, I handed him a printout. Already? He said, scanning it. They landed a new contract. Their stock's up 7%. His eyebrows rose. Well, you surprised me. Glad to know. You still think I'm capable of surprises. At dinner that night, I pushed the second phase. If you really trust me, I said over wine, let me manage a slightly bigger one. Which? That logistics company in New Jersey. He laughed. That's more than a hobby investment, which means I'll take it seriously. He swirled his wine. And if it fails, then I'll admit I'm not cut out for this. He thought about it, then nodded. All right, I'll transfer the authority tomorrow. Perfect, I said, hiding the satisfaction in my voice. The next morning, I called my broker. I need that company to overextend new routes, bad contracts, expensive hires. Slowly, that'll sink them in a year. Exactly. 2 days later, I walked into a quiet cafe near Daniel's office. Sophie was already there, waving at me. Thanks for meeting, she said. I didn't think you'd say yes. Why wouldn't I asked, taking a seat. She smiled sweetly. Some wives don't like their husbands' co-workers. I sipped my latte. I'm not some wives. She leaned forward. Daniel says you're independent, that you don't cling. Is that what he says? She shrugged. It's a compliment. I mean, if I had him, I'd never let him out of my sight. I tilted my head. Dreaming already? Her cheeks flushed slightly. Maybe. He's different from other men. In what way? He listens. Makes me feel like the only woman in the room. I smiled. Sounds like a dream life. She grinned. One day, maybe. A week later, Daniel brought up the investment at breakfast. You've got a knack for this, he said. The logistics company is expanding fast. That's good, right? I asked innocently. For now, we'll see. I nodded, buttering my toast. I'm glad you trust me. Over the next month, Sophie and I had 3 more friendly coffees. She talked about wanting a house with a big garden, about traveling with Daniel to Italy, about the family she imagined they'd have. Do you think he'd ever leave you? She asked one afternoon, pretending to sound casual. I looked her straight in the eye. If that's what he wanted, I'd let him. Her smile was too smug. That's generous. I stirred my coffee. Dreams are delicate. They can shatter easily. She tilted her head. What does that mean? Just that reality doesn't always match the fantasy. The logistics company kept expanding too fast, too recklessly. Daniel was pleased with the growth but didn't bother to dig into the numbers. Exactly as planned. One night, he wrapped his arms around me in the kitchen. You might have a future in this, he murmured. Or maybe I'm just lucky. He chuckled. Whatever it is, keep it up. I kissed his cheek. Don't worry, I will. When I left to meet Sophie the next day, the air outside was crisp. She was already seated, scrolling through her phone. Big news, she said. Daniel told me you're practically running one of his companies. I smiled. Just helping out. Maybe you'll hand it over to him when you get bored. I met her gaze. Or maybe I'll hand it to someone else entirely. Her laugh was light, but I saw the flicker of confusion. I sipped my coffee, tasting the beginning of her unraveling. Daniel slammed his phone onto the counter. What now? I asked, pretending to sound concerned. That damn logistics company is bleeding money, he snapped. I widened my eyes. I thought they were doing well. So did I. Turns out they're drowning in expenses. I bit my lip. Maybe it's just a bad quarter. It's more than that, he muttered, pacing. I should have kept control instead of letting you play investor. I lowered my gaze. I didn't mean to mess anything up. Just leave it to me from now on. I nodded slowly. Of course. That evening, he barely spoke at dinner. I kept my voice small. Do you want me to handle the invoices? No, you've done enough. I was only trying to help. Well, stop trying, he said sharply. I let silence stretch between us, pretending his words cut deeper than they did. The more he believed I felt powerless, the less he'd suspect. The next day, Claire breezed into the kitchen. Morning, she chirped. I poured coffee. You're cheerful. Had a long call with Sophie last night. My hand froze. Oh, she grinned. She's dying to know if you're still doing those little charity lunches. Why? Would she care? Oh, you know girl talk. I tilted my head. And you just happened to mention it? Claire waved it off. She asked. I told her. It's harmless. I forced a small laugh. Right, harmless. She didn't notice. The way my smile didn't reach my eyes. Later, I sat in the stairwell of the office building, my face buried in my hands. The cold concrete wall at my back grounded me. You okay? A deep voice asked. I looked up. Lucas stood a few steps down, holding a file. Just a bad day, I murmured. He sat beside me. Daniel? I gave a half smile. Who else? You don't have to answer that. It's fine. I'm just tired. He studied me for a moment. You're not as alone as you think. I blinked. That's kind of you to say. It's not kindness. It's the truth. I exhaled. Hard to believe that sometimes. When I got home, Daniel was on the phone again, voice raised. No. I don't care what the projections say, fix it. He hung up and rubbed his temples. I hesitated. Did the meeting not go well? They're idiots. And I'm stuck cleaning up the mess. Is there anything I can just stay out of it? I nodded, folding my hands. Of course. The next morning, Claire was in the hallway, scrolling her phone. You'll never guess what Sophie sent me, she said. I'm not really in the mood for guessing games. A picture of the place she wants to buy. I raised an eyebrow. Why would she send you that? She says Daniel mentioned it once. Cute, right? My chest tightened. Very cute. She smirked. You're not jealous, are you? I forced a laugh. Not at all. Later, I found myself in the same stairwell, staring at the scuffed steps. Lucas appeared again. You're making this a habit, he said softly. Maybe I like the quiet, or maybe you just need someone to sit here with you. Why would you want to? He shrugged. Because I don't like seeing you like this. I studied him. You always this decent? Not always. But with you, I try. I smiled faintly. That's dangerous. I might start trusting you. Maybe you should. That night, Daniel barely looked at me. Are you going to be working late again? I asked. Yes. Don't wait up. All right. As he left, I caught my reflection in the glass door, calm, composed, unreadable. Inside, my thoughts moved like quiet currents. Lucas's words echoed in my head. You're not as alone as you think. I wondered if this time, I could believe them. I called Sophie in the afternoon, my tone casual. Have you heard about Daniel's latest deal? She perked up. No, what's going on? I hesitated. I probably shouldn't say, but it's a lot of money tied up in risky ventures. Her voice sharpened. Risky? He told me everything was secure. I lowered my tone. Maybe he doesn't want you to worry. Or maybe he's hiding something, she muttered. That night, Daniel was on the balcony when I joined him. Long day? I asked. Always, he replied, sipping his drink. I saw Sophie earlier, I said lightly. She was a little friendly with a guy I didn't recognize. His head turned. Who? I didn't ask. It didn't seem my place. Friendly how? I shrugged. Maybe it was nothing. He didn't speak for a long time after that. The next morning, Sophie called again. Daniel seemed distracted last night, she said. Really? That's unusual. I asked about the investments. He brushed me off. I bit my lip. Maybe he's under more pressure than he admits, or maybe he's not as successful as he claims. I let the silence stretch before saying, you know him better than anyone. That evening, Daniel came home late. I ran into Sophie today. I told him. He froze. And she asked about your work. A lot. His jaw tightened. She's nosy. I thought you'd have told each other everything. He gave me a sharp look. What are you implying? Nothing, I said softly. I'm sure she just cares. By the third day, the tension between them was tangible. Sophie's texts to me were clipped, demanding more details. Daniel's mood swung between irritation and suspicion. In the middle of it all, Ethan called. I've got a project coming up, he said. Big returns, low risk. You in? I hesitated. What's the catch? No catch. You know I don't pitch unless I'm sure. Remember the waterfront development? I smiled to myself. In my past life, I'd watched this very project explode in value. I'm in, I said. How much? All I've got saved. That's a lot of trust, he said. It's not trust. It's strategy. That night, Daniel asked, have you talked to Sophie today? Not really. She's acting strange, distant. Maybe she's busy. He frowned. Or maybe she's hiding something. I tilted my head. Why would she? He didn't answer. The next day, Sophie confronted me. Is Daniel in trouble? She demanded. What makes you think that? You said his deals were risky. I said they might be. Big difference. Her eyes narrowed. I need to know if he can keep his promises. I smiled faintly. Only Daniel can answer that. Later, Ethan sent over the investment documents. Paperwork's ready, he said. I'll sign tonight. You won't regret it. I know, I replied, my pen gliding across the page. When I got home, Daniel was pacing. Sophie says you've been talking about me. I blinked innocently. We talk about everything. You know that. What exactly did you say? That you're under pressure. That's it. His eyes searched mine. You're not trying to cause trouble, are you? I gave him a sad smile. Of course not. As I lay in bed, I thought of Sophie questioning Daniel, Daniel suspecting Sophie, and my signature drawing on Ethan's contract. This wasn't just about emotions anymore. It was about winning. I unlocked the door to Daniel's apartment quietly, planning to grab a file I'd left behind. But the sight that greeted me froze my steps. Claire stood in the middle of the living room, flipping through a folder. Sophie lounged on the couch, sipping coffee like she owned the place. Nice timing, Sophie said, smirking. What is this? I asked, my voice low. Claire didn't flinch. She handed Sophie a document. Delivery. My eyes narrowed. Those are Daniel's files, correct? She said lightly. I stepped forward. Why are you giving them to her? Claire's smile was sharp. Because she asked. And because you were always too naive to win. The words hit like ice. Water. I forced my face into calm. Naive? You think playing helpless makes you smart? Daniel will eat you alive. Sophie here? She actually knows how to play. I tilted my head. Interesting. Sophie leaned back. Don't look at me like that. It's business. I glanced at the folder again, noting the contents: financial statements, project drafts. And you think betraying me is business? Claire chuckled. Exactly. Survival. Instead of snapping, I smiled. Thank you. She blinked. For what? For confirming what I suspected. I pulled my phone from my bag, still recording. And for giving me proof. Her face paled. You slipped the phone back in my bag. Don't worry, Claire. I won't ruin your little partnership today. Sophie arched an eyebrow. You're not angry? Oh, I'm furious, I said softly. But I'm patient. I walked out before they could speak again, heart pounding but steady. Lucas found me sitting on the bench outside my building. You look like you just swallowed poison, he said. Close enough. He sat beside me. Daniel's name came up in a meeting today. Not good news. I turned to him. What kind of not good? He's overextended. Again, multiple loans. High interest. If you're still legally tied to him when it collapses, I could go down with him. I finished. He nodded. You need to protect yourself now. I know. Lucas studied me. You're planning something. I just caught Claire handing Sophie Daniel's documents, I said. His brows shot up. And I recorded it. That's dangerous. That's leverage, I corrected. Lucas exhaled. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I murmured. Back in my apartment, I replayed the audio. Claire's voice was clear. You were always too naive to win. Sophie's laugh followed. Every word was a nail in their coffin. I opened my laptop and began drafting something I'd avoided until now: a divorce petition. Not rushed, not desperate. On my terms. The next day, Daniel called. Why didn't you answer last night? He demanded. I was busy. With what? Thinking about my future. He laughed bitterly. Since when do you think about anything without me? Since I realized you're drowning in debt. Silence. Who told you that? He asked finally. I hear things. Lucas? Does it matter? His tone hardened. You're not walking away from this. I smiled into the phone. We'll see. That night, Lucas texted. Don't wait too long. I stared at the message for a long time. I could already see the lines, forming the alliances, the betrayals, the perfect cracks, and I had no intention of letting them close again. Daniel stared at the envelope like it was a live grenade. What the hell is this? Divorce papers, I said simply. His laugh was sharp. Cute. You think you can just serve me and walk away? I'm already halfway gone. He dropped the papers on the table. If you push this, you'll get nothing. I tilted my head. Nothing? Not a cent. Not the apartment. Not the car. Nothing. I lowered my gaze, letting a flicker of hesitation show. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, he said, almost smug. Sign my terms and I'll be generous. I bit my lip, pretending to weigh it. I need time. Don't take too long, he warned. Later that night, Ethan called. How's my favorite silent investor? I smiled. Checking my account just made my week. Told you the project would explode. Your shares already climbing. Stay quiet though. No one can connect this to you yet. Don't worry. Daniel still thinks I'm broke. Ethan chuckled. Then let him. 2 days later, I accidentally ran into Sophie outside a cafe. She smirked. He's furious, you know. Good. You should just settle. The longer you drag this out, the more miserable it'll get. I leaned closer. Why are you in such a hurry for me to sign, Sophie? Her smile thinned. Because you're wasting everyone's time. Or maybe, I said quietly, you're worried I know more than you think. She didn't answer, but her eyes flickered just enough. That night, Daniel called again. Sophie says you're being difficult. Am I? She's right. We can end this cleanly. I sighed into the phone. I don't want to fight. Daniel, I just want what's fair. You're not getting half, he snapped. I never said I wanted half, I murmured. But I do want to be done. Then stop playing games and sign. I smiled where he couldn't see. Soon, meanwhile, the leak went out exactly as planned. An anonymous email to 3 of Daniel's biggest investors. Copies of debt statements, interest rates, pending payments.by morning. I got my first message from one of my sources. They're asking questions. Perfect. When we met for negotiations, Daniel's jaw was tight. You've been talking to people, he accused. People talk to me, I corrected. Investors are nervous. That hurts. Both of us. Does it? I asked softly. He slammed his hand on the table. Enough. Sign my terms or this drags for months. I widened my eyes just enough to look unsettled. Months? Yes, and I'll make sure you regret every second. I let the silence stretch, then said, give me a day. Back in my apartment. Ethan called again. Heard Daniel's name in a boardroom today, he said. Not in a good way. I might know why, I said innocently. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. The project's next payout hits next week. You'll be untouchable. I leaned back in my chair. That's the plan. The following afternoon, Sophie cornered me in the lobby. He's bleeding investors. Settle now before it's too late. I raised an eyebrow. Too late for him, you mean? You don't want to be tied to him when it crashes. I smiled. Oh, Sophie, that's the point. Her expression froze, and I walked away without another word. By the week's end, the whispers about Daniel had turned into headlines in business circles. I didn't need to push further. The cracks in his empire were widening on their own, and I was right where I wanted to be, on the outside, watching it all collapse. Lucas's voice crackled over the phone. It's official, his accounts are frozen. I almost laughed. Already? Creditors are circling like vultures. It's over. 2 hours later, I got the first call from Daniel. You did this, he snarled. I didn't freeze your accounts, I said mildly. You ruined me. Or maybe you just built something that couldn't stand. He hung up before I could finish. By evening, Sophie was the one calling. I need to meet. Now. Busy, I replied. This is serious. She hissed. So is my schedule. She showed up anyway, slamming my door shut behind her. He's broke, she said, almost breathless. Imagine that. I can't stay with him. I need options. I folded my arms. And what does that have to do with me? There's a new investor coming into one of Daniel's old projects. Big money. If I get in first, you'll be safe. I finished. For her. Her smile was sly. Exactly. Who's the investor? She leaned in. Some guy named Ethan. I let the silence hang, enjoying it. You should go meet him, Sophie. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about. The next morning, Ethan called me, barely containing his amusement. She tried to flirt with me. Did you let her? I teased. I told her I don't invest in liabilities. I laughed. That must have hurt. She looked like she'd swallowed glass. Consider it a little bonus. I was in the middle of making tea when my phone buzzed again. Claire, I need to talk to you, she said quickly. Why? I was wrong. About everything. Sophie manipulated me. I leaned against the counter. You handed her Daniel's documents, Claire. That wasn't manipulation. That was choice. I thought. She stopped, her voice shaking. I thought she'd protect me. She promised. And now, she's gone. Won't return my calls. Not my problem. Please, she whispered. I didn't think it would go this far. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling nothing but clarity. You knew exactly how far it could go. You just didn't care until it turned on you. So that's it? That's it. I hung up before she could cry. Later that night, Lucas came by with a bottle of wine. To the Queen, he said, raising his glass. I smirked. Dramatic. Much? You played this better than anyone else could. It wasn't a game, I said quietly. Sure it was, he said, grinning. You just happened to win. I swirled the wine in my glass. It doesn't feel like winning. Then what does it feel like? I thought for a moment. Like breathing again. 2 days later, Daniel's number lit up my phone one last time. I let it ring out. The news had already spread. His empire was gone, his partners had walked, and the man who once thought he was untouchable now had nothing left to touch. I didn't need to watch it happen. I'd already seen enough. When Ethan called again, it was just to say, "Your account's looking very healthy." I noticed. "You sure you don't want to make this public?" "No, I'm not here to dance on his grave. I just wanted him out of my life, and now he is," Ethan said simply. That night, I sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was carrying someone else's weight. The noise, the plotting, the constant pull of other people's games, it was all gone. I could finally hear myself think, and what I thought was simple. I was done. The elevator doors opened, and there he was, Daniel. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, and the arrogance that used to hang on him like a tailored coat was gone. "This is your office now?" he asked, glancing at the gold letters on the wall. "My name." "It is," I said, stepping aside. "Come in. Or are you just here to admire the view?" He walked in slowly, eyes darting around the space Ethan helped me build. "You've done well, better than I expected. Better than you wanted," I corrected. He didn't argue. "I need to talk to you." "You're already doing that," he exhaled. "I made mistakes. That's one word for it. I lost everything," he said, voice low. "The company, the investors, Sophie." I tilted my head. "And now you're here. Why?" He hesitated. "Because I need one more chance." I laughed softly. "One more chance to what? Steal from me again? Humiliate me? Or maybe just prove you can?" His eyes flickered. "I wasn't always like that." "No, you were worse. You just had more money to hide it." "I can fix things," he insisted. "I can rebuild. But I need help." "From me?" "Yes." I walked to my desk, opened the top drawer, and pulled out a plain white envelope. He frowned. "What's that?" I slid it across the desk. "A check. The exact amount you once stole from me." His jaw tightened. "You kept count?" "I kept the receipt," I said coldly. He picked it up, staring at the number. "Why would you give this to me?" "Because now we're even." He blinked. "Even? You took from me. I built myself back. I earned it. I multiplied it. And now I can hand it back without feeling a damn thing. That's what even looks like." He shook his head slowly. "You think this makes us square?" "It makes me free," I said simply. He set the envelope down, almost afraid to touch it again. "And what happens to me now?" "That's not my problem. You're colder than I remember." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "I'm just done letting you set the temperature." He stood there, breathing hard, searching for the version of me he used to know. He wasn't going to find her. "Please," he said finally, voice breaking, "don't walk away from me." I stepped around the desk until we were only inches apart. "You walked away first, Daniel. All I'm doing now is closing the door." I picked up my bag, left the envelope on the desk, and headed for the door. "You think this is victory?" he called after me. I didn't turn around. "No, this is peace." The hallway was quiet as I walked toward the elevator. Each step felt lighter than the one before. Ethan was waiting downstairs, leaning casually against his car. "How'd it go?" I smiled. "Even." He raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" I gave him back every penny he took from me. And that felt good. It felt final. He studied me for a moment. "So this is it? You're done?" I was done the moment I stopped caring if he apologized, I said. "Today was just the paperwork." Ethan grinned. "You know, most people would have kept the money. That's the difference," I said, sliding into the passenger seat. "I don't need to hold on to the past to prove I've moved on." As we drove through the city, I looked out at the buildings, the lights, the life I had built piece by piece. My name was on the office tower now, not his. My account was full, my circle small but loyal, and my conscience clear. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to chase, it was already here. I rested my head back and let the hum of the engine fill the silence. I had taken back more than the money. I had taken back myself, and that, I thought, was worth every penny.